Hey everyone, welcome back to She Blurbs Podcast. Today's guest is Stephanie. Hey Stephanie, thank you so much for being a guest today on my podcast.
I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for having
me. So can you tell our listeners when you first realized you wanted to be an author?
I was always a writerly person, a book person. I was always in theater and doing writing type things, but it wasn't actually until I was older, I think, like that I started realizing that I was going to write fiction books. And I think I pushed it off. I thought I would write for Saturday Night Live, and I thought I would write for films because I was in the film world for a long time, and for theater. And even though I always loved books, but it took a while for that to happen. And I did a big soul searching life change after the film industry. And it was like, I should write books. But then I did not do that for another several years. And then finally one day I sat down a little over a handful of years ago and was like, okay, it's time. So
that's cool. I love your book, book covers that keeps and I like your hair color. I meant to say that before we came on, but I love it. Thanks. So can you tell us what or who inspired you to write?
I think that I've never actually That's weird. I've never actually talked about that. Like I said, I've always been a very bookish person. So I've read everything and been influenced and love so many authors. But I think the first people that ever made me want to write the type of books that I actually sort of write now, and that's a kind nod to me from hopefully my books are anywhere in their league. But Carl Hyacin, who is Even Cowgirls Get the Blues, Robinson, that was one of the first books that I was so weird and out there and up my alley. They made that movie with Uma Thurman. I was just looking at it the other day, and that was one of the first ones that for some reason was so weird in the way I'm weird, I guess. And I was like, oh, and then Carl Hyacin books are set in South Florida, which is where I'm from, and now live again. And that really resonated with me. And then there was a lot of female detective kind of mystery, or the A is for Alibi, Sue Grafton, and this woman named Edna Buchanan, who was a big writer, or she was a Miami Herald writer down here. And she had a really cool series. And I think there was a couple of those that were weirdly formative over the years. And one day I was like, oh, that'd be cool. Now here I am.
And that's cool. Wow. Because you do have a lot. I love them. I'm adding your first series to my to be read list because I like it. Awesome. So can you tell our listeners what inspired your Fox Hill Southern Mystery series?
That was during a period of time where I really wanted to visit Tennessee, and I was just really craving being in the mountains. I love where I live now. I love South Florida, but sometimes you're just like, oh, you want to be somewhere else. And I kept wanting to go up into our closest mountains. That was one thing. That was kind of where the location came from. And I wanted to start playing around with mysteries and cozies because I had spent the last several years writing romance unexpectedly. I had never planned to write romance. And then I was just fully enveloped in the romance world. And so I was kind of making the first little crossover, something that I could write that my romance readers would like. And that, it's not majorly, it's more slow burn. It's not incredibly romantic, but that kind of had the same vibe as some of my romance books, and the same sort of small town charm and lovable characters. And so Fox Hill sort of developed out of that.
Nice. I love those. So can you tell our listeners about you say you was getting in a magazine, right? Or is it newspaper?
Oh no. Yeah. It's a magazine. It's a magazine down here. It's beautiful. I was really actually pretty shocked. One of my closest friends and I were approached to be featured in it, and it's coming out in the next couple of weeks. It was really fast. Nice. It feels like it was really fast because we did the photo shoot a couple weeks ago, and it's called Venice Magazine. and it's sort of similar to Ocean Drive, which was a big, or was, I haven't been out in a while, magazine in Miami. And it's just this beautiful magazine, and they do really cool profiles on people. And so we did this photo shoot, and we got all dressed up and got to be out by a pool in this beautiful house, and it was really fun. And so I'm actually nervous / excited to see it come out. I have not read the article yet, but I heard that it came out good. So some fingers.
That's cool. You're gonna have to tag me in it when it comes out. I think you're on my Facebook. I think you are. I think. But yeah, definitely tag me in there whenever it comes out so I can read it. Ooh, I'm excited. So can you give our listeners a brief summary of your Fox Hill Southern Mystery?
The Fox Hill are about a girl who's kind of left her hometown behind, kind of after college, or end of high school, college days, and sort of disowned it for a couple of reasons, not because the people were bad, but due to family stuff. And she's moved to Chicago. She has a whole nother life. She's a realtor, or a kind of up and coming real estate agent. And she ends up not really, kind of, I'm going to say inheriting, because that's such a bookish keyword, inheriting. Her grandparents decide to retire, and they leave her their old music hall, which she totally grew up in. And there's like this caveat: she has to come back and sign the paperwork because she wants nothing to do with it. She comes back to this dusty old town that is basically on its last legs, and it's a little disheartened, but her old best friend's there with just her total vigor for life, her fun Reba, and Reba's now grumpy brother, Kurt, who they were all friends growing up. And she basically stumbles into something happening in the town, and she wants to leave, but she just realizes if she leaves, then the town's basically going to turn into a ghost town, just one of these ones that's rolled over by development. It's being bought up. So she solves the mystery and stays on. And then there are 3 more books.
Oh, nice. So are you going to ever write books from the side characters, have their own stories, or are you working on anything new? Or
in that one, they sort of do have different, like Reba's sort of the main-ish character. She's the romance in the second one. So they all kind of do. And I haven't released the 4th book. It's being released this year. It's done, but I'm just doing some more editing. And so that sort of rounds out the series and brings it all home for Fox Hill. And then I am finally starting to put out my books in my Florida State, or the Sunshine State series, which is the one I've been working on forever, it feels like. But, and I'm so excited because I'm just I much like actually my Fox Hill character, I disowned Florida at 18 and said it was the worst place ever, and I hated it, and and now I've been back for quite a while, quite a while. And when I came back home, I didn't have to come back home. I started coming home from New York City, and I was like, this is lovely. I love where I'm from. It's so beautiful. And then I started staying longer and longer. And then I finally moved back. And so I really had to embrace, or I guess I chose to, but I embraced all the weirdness of Florida. And it's for all it's good and it's, it's bad, the things I didn't like. Now I'm like, that's what makes it, Florida. And so I've been writing stories in this world and this fictionalized Florida world. And now I just had the first of those books up on Vella just as a test last year. And so that's coming out as a book right now. I just got a new cover today from my new designer. So having that fun, nervous, oh gosh, okay, got to send her back notes. And but so yes, that one is called Sunshine Crime, currently on Vella, and Sunshine State of Crime, and in the book form. And that is a whole world, and that's going to have at least 2 series that I have books in right now that haven't been released, but they will. And that's all sort of in the same world. And so you have side characters that come in and out of the book, and just sort of main locations. And so that different people in different books frequent, like the coffee shop, donut shop that everyone goes to, with the tattooed owner, and fun stuff like that. Fun to me, at least.
Nice. Who's your favorite character in the books, and why?
I don't have favorites in general ever because I like too many things for different reasons.
That's cool. That's pretty cool. Like, I've never been to Florida, but I'm gonna read your books just to get a little feel of Florida, I guess.
That's why I'm writing them. So now you'll feel like you've gone. Then you can come visit.
I'm gonna eventually visit one day.
Yes. I
So
will
my
prime it for you.
oh,
So
nice.
you're prepared. Like, oh, what is this? And be like, okay.
So my last and final questions: what advice would you give our listeners who want to pursue a writing career like yourself?
I think everyone should pursue anything that brings them joy. And if you write, there's so much advice, so much writing advice, and it's all over the board. And I would just say to start by writing something. And I know that sounds like, oh, obvious, but even me, who was spent all this time writing romance and knew I always wanted to write mystery, it's taken writing those books, like starting to write mystery, to find your voice and to find what actually resonates with you and what you find fun. And so you can get stuck thinking about it a whole lot, but it's really helpful to just start writing something and try and complete it, ideally. And then you can have to do it again and again, because you're not going to, or you're not supposed to, like, hit it out of the park the first time. You know, it's like with anything, you just need to start doing it if you're ever going to be good. And that's one of the reasons I eventually said I need to start writing, because I saw with every other career I'd had, everyone starts at the bottom, and you're going to become good at something the more you do it. It doesn't even matter if you have talent naturally, if you're not. I just saw so many people, but the more you did, you could have a career, you could become something, whatever it is you want to be. So start writing. And then eventually, if you are already writing, I'd say remember to also treat it like a business and try and remove the part of you that always says it's not perfect, it's not perfect, it's not perfect. And because you'll stay there forever. and nothing perfect.
That's true, though. That's how I am. That's how a lot of the authors, they gave the same advice. They're just like, write. Don't stop writing. Right. And I'm like, I have issues with writing because my brain is everywhere, and they're like, well, you can start at the beginning, or you can start in the middle or the end, but most people start at the beginning. I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna die writing my book.
Then start another book. I mean, I wouldn't say just start another one, but give yourself the project and then try and get it out. That was the biggest thing for me, is learning how to produce books more so than write books. Like, instead of being like, I have to write the book, it's like, I have to put a book out, and not think of it as like the perfect thing, because I'm a perfectionist, like many of us are. And that was always the hardest thing. So actually for me, I started out with pen names. So you can always do that too. Be like, just write, put it out under pen name, because then you're not as attached to it in the same way. And that was, for me, that was the lesson I needed to learn. I knew I needed to learn how to put things out without being like so attached to them. So I guess it depends where you are, in writing, but just find ways to get it away from you, get it done, get something done, and then also put it out so that you can start again and do more.
Okay. That's a good advice. I'm definitely gonna give that a try, because I'm struggling right now. But yeah, that's really great advice. I really want to get my book out there, but I'm like having what do they call it? Writer's block? You bet.
This is a very random tip, but I'll throw it out there. Also, even however much you have, or give yourself a goal, like I want to write 3 chapters, and then send it to a beta reader. You can get one on Fiverr, Upwork, or probably other places, or just someone who's willing to read your work and give you feedback. And those have, like, beta readers, I start using them more now, actually, even though I've put out so many books, but it's really helpful even early on. I just gave a couple beta readers sometime last year, here's a couple books I've started and I'm not sure which one is the strongest. Read them and give me your advice. And it just can help to build confidence on what you're working on, because if you prime them right, they will say, oh, this isn't working, or this person isn't necessarily likable. I mean, I'm assuming they say that. They're going to tell you I mean, I've had different ones, they give you different advice, but they'll tell you if something's not working if you ask them. And then they'll tell you if things are working, and then you'll be like, yay. And then you'll go and you'll write. And it feels really amazing when you get good feedback, which you're more likely than not, that's what you're going to get. So
yeah. Oh, that works. That works. Thank you so much for being a guest today, Stephanie, on my podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm glad we finally got to chat.
Yeah, you have a great day.
You too. Night.
Bye.
You're like a circle that floats around me, keeping me safe and sound. And when I fall, you tied a rope to me.